Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thanks for joining me again this week, a little earlier than normal. Happy June and happy Pride Month for those that are celebrating. This is the 64th installment of my weekly virtual office hour address. And we've now reached 445 days since the March 16th county health order started the whole shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. More than a year ago, I converted my weekly office hours into a virtual live stream address every Friday morning, and I haven't missed a week since. People continue to say they really appreciate these weekly addresses from their mayor, hearing from the mayor. So I'll continue to do these through the end of shelter in place and probably a lot longer. But the virtual office hours are really great for me. They allow me to kind of do a weekly reset on what's happened over the last week. But it allows me then to give you some updates, answer your questions, and just provide some general words of encouragement, probably to a larger group than I could have done at a specific coffee shop. So thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale. I hope that everyone's doing well, staying healthy, being safe, and of course, getting your vaccine when it's your time. And it's pretty much everyone's time over 12 years old now. As I mentioned last month, I'll be changing my background art every week, and this art is being provided by Sunnyvale artists. So today's piece is called Foggy Morning in Maine, and it's by Andrea Coutura. And if you're interested in purchasing that art, you can just reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the artist. But it's been really good to see that variety of art, and I've always loved traveling the world and bringing back art from different countries that my wife and I have visited. So anyway, but as far as the county is concerned, please follow the health orders. Uh, Wash your hands, don't touch your face, reduce the number of people in contact you come in contact with. Of course, now that more and more people are being vaccinated, that becomes a little bit easier. But maintain safe social distance when you're out. Continue to wear your mask, and of course, most importantly, get your vaccination when it's your time. And now is the best time possible to get a vaccination because you might actually win some money because of that. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Let's go ahead and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. So last Tuesday, council had a very long meeting. It went past midnight. It started with a closed session. It was our mid-year review for our city manager, Kent Steffens, and it was I think we've been in a good place as far as having our city manager over the last few years, especially with all the projects we have to get done. He has a civil engineering background, and has been was assistant city manager in multiple places, including Sunnyvale, before he became our city manager. And it's been really great working with him, and it's our chance to kind of give him yearly feedback and to some degree figure out what's happening in the upcoming year. And the biggest thing is how we recover, how we continue to provide services and reopen from a Sunnyvale standpoint. As far as the main meeting is concerned, we council's main item was recommending the land use option for the environmental impact report for Moffett Park. And so we're updating our Moffett Park specific plan. I was on the planning commission back in 2004 when our first Moffett Park specific plan was done. And so at that point, we talked a little bit about housing, but it was like who would decide to build housing out in Moffett Park? It was a business park, and it had been envisioned as industrial manufacturing office back in the 50s when a lot of the major zoning was done in the city. But ultimately, almost 20 years later, more than 15, we were finally looking at what the new vision for Moffett Park is going to be, And so the EIR is trying to do an evaluation of adding additional office space, uh, housing and retail, and the housing and retail to make it kind of a walkable communities out in Moffett Park. So staff was recommending 10 million additional square feet of office R&D industrial, 18,500 housing units, and 500,000 square feet of commercial. And and it was a lot of positive things. This is the environmental impact report that we do, and then we go further after we figure out what those mitigations are and set what the actual maximums are. So it's better to a certain degree study more than what you would actually set those maximums are for Moffett Park and figuring out what the appropriate mitigation measures are, so that then when we go to setting that, it makes it a little bit easier. So we have a little leeway on what our numbers are. But council did two things. For one thing, we raised the maximum number of housing units to be studied from 18,500 to 20,000. And we also allowed looking for housing on the west side of Matilda, as opposed to most of the housing, and to a large degree, kind of the housing and walking neighborhoods are 2 points that are east of Matilda, but there were a few opportunities for housing right along Matilda that I think were viable options, and so from that standpoint, make a lot of sense. We also so that was about 3 hours of testimony and discussion. And then we also appointed our board and commissioners. So we've had about over 30, about 35, 36 people apply for our boards and commissions. And mid-year, every few years, we have kind of a high point of where a lot of people have cycled off, have had term limits. When you're on a board and commission, you have a maximum of 2 4-year terms. And then certain people, leave, resign because they get too busy with their day jobs or other things. And so we ended up, having over 40 votes to basically choose and select the people that will be on our boards and commissions. So it was a busy evening to say the least. We ended sometime after midnight, and we actually postponed one of the items for the upcoming meeting, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And then last Wednesday, and so it was a late night Tuesday and Wednesday morning, woke to the tragedy here in the South Bay that, a gunman had killed 9 people at the VTA light rail yard in San Jose. And, it's hard to believe it's only been a week. It seems like, it's a lot longer at this point. It was scary for so many people working in the area, and I reached out to a lot of people to make sure that they were fine, that I know that worked in that area or worked for VTA. Last Thursday afternoon, evening, we had a vigil at the San Jose Rotunda, and it was really touching. It's kind of a first step in healing. More than 2,000 people were there, and it was families, it was elected officials, it was clergy, it was a lot of the VTA workers were there. But it's just it was difficult to hear so many touching stories, friends and family reminiscing about their loved ones that they had lost, and and seeing some, especially some of the children that were there that had lost their parents. And so yeah, it's going to take a long while to recover. Light rail continues to be closed, at least for the time being, and they've stopped actually doing the bus bridges. That was being done through other transit agencies trying to help out, so they'd lent some of their drivers, but that is not sustainable. So we're really not sure, when light rail is going to be restarted. But for now, it's just tough to hear about people that have went through so much and had been hit so close to home. We're just beginning to heal. But there was another shooting less than a block away just yesterday at the county, near the county courthouse building. So I was talking to Supervisor Lee yesterday afternoon, and he was recounting. It's like, yeah, it happened just downstairs a week later. So it's pretty raw in a lot of people's minds right now, and we're Supervisor Lee and I are talking. We're talking about redoing another gun buyback program. Um, the first one happened back in 2019 in the North County here, and we had one uh, at the end of February in 2020, just before the shelter in place began, and that one was also successful. The first one was over 550 guns. The second one I think was closer to 200 to 300 guns, but it's getting that guns and ammunition out of people's homes, and it doesn't conceivably solve the problem, but at least gets rid of guns that people don't want, and I think it has a ongoing positive effect from that standpoint. And then last Thursday, Governor Newsom announced his Vax for the Win, a new vaccine incentive program. So California always needs to be supersized, so it's kind of taking, what's being done in Ohio and what's been done in New Jersey and kind of in a few other states and kind of mixing them all into one. So it's $116 million designed to motivate Californians to get their vaccinations leading up to whatever the new normal is on June 15th. And so, last week, over the last about before that, beginning of last week and the kind of the week before, we started seeing a decline in vaccinations. And so the proposed incentives basically aim to give kind of a nudge to those people that have been slow to get vaccinated, especially in some of the harder reach communities. And it's just also a way to thank everybody for getting vaccinated. So, the governor announced a lottery for everyone who had already been vaccinated. And so if you've been vaccinated at least one shot, you are in that lottery, and it's a non-traditional lottery according to the governor. But it's 30 people will win $50,000 and 10 people will win $1.5 million. So it's a lot of people, but then again, it's just a reward for getting your vaccination. So the first $50,000 drawings will happen today, and that will be 15 people will be chosen today to win 50,000, and then next Friday, another 15 people will be chosen, and then finally on June 15th, 10 people will be chosen for $1.5 million. So it's a nice reward. I don't know if it's the best way to spend that money, but it is kind of a reward for everybody who's gotten the vaccine, and and it helps for people that it's that reward for getting the vaccine and kind of moving forward. The proposal was just to give $50 gift cards to the next 200 million people, or sorry, 200, the next 2 million people that get vaccinated. So before June 15th, so you'll be in the lottery for the June 15th vaccination if you are in the June 15th lottery for $1.5 million. But if you're one of the people that has started getting their vaccine first or second dose over the last week, you also get a $50 gift card. So that's positive from that standpoint. And then last weekend was Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial kickoff to summer. So I hope everyone had a good weekend. It was beautiful weather here. And Monday was, of course, Memorial Day. And thanks to those who made that ultimate sacrifice of defending our nation, protecting our freedoms. My father was in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. My grandfather was in Europe during World War II. So, from that standpoint, it's actually it's difficult to know that people gave their lives defending our freedoms, and it's important that just people take that time to ultimately um, reminisce and think about what the value is of our freedoms in the United States. So that was Memorial Day on Monday. And then Tuesday was June 1st, so happy June. But it's also the beginning of Pride Month. So, there was a small flag raising ceremony at City Hall. And it was small. It's like we're not having, we didn't plan a big event. I was happy that, 2 years ago in 2019, council unanimously had a resolution to approve the the pride flag raising at City Hall for the entire month of June. So June 1st every year we'll kind of have that kickoff as far as raising the flag at City Hall, and we've had a lot of positive feedback as far as that's concerned from city staff, from residents that are just happy that our city is acknowledging the diversity of our city, and whoever you love, you're welcome in Sunnyvale. So it was good to have a small event at City Hall, but the bigger event was actually last night, but we'll talk about that in a minute. June 1st was also the kickoff for the library summer reading program, and this is our annual program. Of course, all presentations, events, activities this year will be held online. The library is opening up, but we're not fully ready for those in-person events. But all participants who complete the program, will win a prize and then be entered in to win a larger prize at the end of the summer. So, and don't forget the library's open inside Monday through Saturday from 1 to 6 p.m. and those hours will be changing, and we'll talk about that later. And then, of course, yesterday, Governor Newsom spoke in San Francisco and was talking about kind of the restaurants and the reopening. And from a state standpoint, we will continue to do to-go cocktails and beer, as well as kind of reserving outdoor dining beyond June 15th. And so that's, that really is important. That extension will really provide restaurants a chance to recover. And then that extension goes until January 1st, 2022. But there's some state legislation that's currently kind of going through the Senate, and hopefully, both the entire state assembly to resolve kind of outdoor dining and kind of maintaining some of the benefits that we've actually had during COVID, and that includes kind of opening downtown Sunnyvale on Murphy Avenue, closing that to only pedestrian and bike traffic, as well as kind of extending that cafe experience in on historic Murphy Avenue, as well as reserving certain parking areas around the city so that restaurants could expand from not just being inside, but also having outdoor dining that they might not have had room for before. And I think that's a positive thing. Ultimately, there are still people that don't feel comfortable yet about eating indoors, and hopefully that will change over the next year. But I think that's been a positive, result of the COVID and of COVID and sheltering in place over the last year. And then last night was a much bigger Pride event on Murphy Avenue. I think it was the first annual, to our degree, Pride event on Murphy. So it was sponsored by the City of Sunnyvale, the Downtown Association, of course, the Chamber of Commerce, the Santa Clara County Office of LGBTQ Affairs, Fabulous Sunnyvale, and of course Silicon Valley Pride. So, it started with a few speeches and some background music, but it was just good to see so many people out celebrating Pride and just being out there. It was great to see some friends that I hadn't seen for a while, and just kind of intermingle with people, safely outdoors. And the art club even put together some quick Pride decorations. So it was not a big event, but it was the DJ playing some music. It was the speeches, and it was just good to hear people talk about, living in Sunnyvale and being part of the LGBTQ community here in Sunnyvale. And so as a council member, just happy to be an ally and, and support that diversity that we have in our city. It's just fantastic to see, balloons and flags all on Murphy Avenue. So I hope that this is the first of many years that we'll be doing this on Murphy. So great to see everyone out there. If you had a chance to be there, if not, I hope that we'll have it again next year. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to our weekly numbers as far as testing, hospitalization, vaccinations. Nationally, cases and hospitalizations are still very low. New COVID cases, we only had, we're still having some, but about 130,000 new COVID cases nationwide. And that was, and that's getting us around, 33, just over 33 million still cases that we've had nationally. We've surpassed 169 million. That's about 60%, 60.3% of the people that have had at least one dose, those 12 and older, and 41% of the population is fully vaccinated. So, that's really positive, and a much larger percentage have that first dose. So it's good. We still have some number of deaths. We've had about another just over 2,000, almost 3,000 in the last week. So about 592,000 deaths now. And then from a California standpoint, we've had still just about 3.7 million positive. We're only having 800 cases a day now, new positive cases of COVID. One of the lowest rates in the nation, which is very positive. And then from a California standpoint, we're still having a certain number of deaths, but that's way down also. But we've had 62,000 fatalities since COVID began. So, but vaccinations continue to go up. We've had almost 37.8 million vaccines administered. And then as far as our ranking, we're still at 13 on states with residents with at least one dose, and we're still at 21 on states with residents fully vaccinated, now at kind of 43%. So 43% of our state is fully vaccinated, and 57% has one dose. So we're doing better, much better. But we're seeing that increase of vaccinations kind of drop off. And then from a county standpoint, confirmed cases, we only had 150 new COVID cases in the last week, which is way down from 500 just a week ago, and 1,000 a month ago, and in multiple thousands we were having a week, if you go back a month or two. So vaccinations are making a difference. Being out is helping people. So people are still dying, from COVID. We had another 7 new deaths in the last week. So we're now at 2,143 deaths in the county. But vaccinations we're doing really well from a county standpoint. We've had over 1.1 million people fully vaccinated, 64% of the county. And then about 1.3 million people 12 and older with at least one dose, and so that's 77% of the county. So 77% of our county right now, 12 and older, have been vaccinated. That's one of the best county statistics in the state and in the nation from that standpoint. So all that's very good. But I continue to do a lot of advocating on on the city's behalf, at the county level, continuing discussions with our county health and county supervisors on getting testing, on getting additional vaccinations here. The county mobile health pop-up van will be at Murphy Park for testing on the second and fourth Mondays. So they'll be back on June 14th and June 28th from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so if you need to get tested, you can go to sccfreetest.org to do an appointment anywhere in the county, or just show up and they have availability to get tested. And then, of course, as far as getting vaccinated, El Camino Health has been great. They have a vaccination site at 1300 Maud Avenue, which is a partnership between LinkedIn, El Camino Health, and the city to basically where they can do up to 3,000 doses a day. The county has lots of drop-in vaccination clinics around the county. Last week they did a pop-up at Fremont High School. They'll be back at Fremont later in June. And then Plaza del Rey, I've been pushing to get the county mobile health pop-up van in our different mobile home communities. They were at Plaza del Rey yesterday doing vaccinations, so that was successful, I hear. And then, of course, started earlier this week, Mayview Community Health Center, that's at the Columbia Neighborhood Center. For all of June, we'll be having evening vaccinations from 5 to 7 p.m. So, it's trying to make it as easy as possible for people to get vaccinated. Anybody who wants to can get their first shot, can get their second shot, and just making it, as simple as possible for our residents. So if you want to get registered to get a vaccine or just show up, you can find all that information at sccfreevax.org. So great. Hopefully you can come out and get your vaccination. So, and now next I wanted to announce some upcoming events. So our next city council meeting is next Tuesday, June 8th, and it's going to be a very long and yet again busy meeting. So it'll start with the ceremonial swearing in of our appointed board and commission members. And then we'll have a special order of the day for Pride Month. And, in speaking of Pride Month, I did want to mention one thing that I did forget. I brought this up to the chief, our chief of public safety, about 2 years ago when we were both at an event in San Jose. And San Jose had just rolled out its pride patches. So their police officers had basically special patches made in support of the LGBTQ community. And to me, I think that was really good. And, it's that special, it's really important, to show that you are feeling inclusive, that you're supporting that all members of your community. So the chief actually listened, and 2 years later, took a little while, but 2 years later we actually rolled out this month a new pride patch. So you might see some of the Sunnyvale Public Safety wearing this fantastic Sunnyvale Pride patch starting this month. So if you get a chance and if you see that, just thank the officers. I think it's really good to have that in our community. I think all that is kind of, to a certain degree, just a level of support, and shows to a large degree that we're listening. And it's not just but it's not just those measures. It's having listening events. And one of the things when we had our listening event last summer, and we had one of our Unity listening events specifically to the LGBTQ community, was they had asked for more gatherings, more inclusive gatherings here in the city. And so one of the things that came out of that was our Pride Night on Murphy Avenue that happened yesterday. And I think it's all those things that just basically making sure people are feeling heard, and making sure that they feel belong in our community. So all that's positive to a certain degree. And then as far as upcoming events, beyond next Tuesday's meeting about the ceremonial portion. There's a lot of items that we'll be going through. As far as we'll have a final meeting to hear from the public on our 2020-2021 proposed budget. So that's the last chance for residents to kind of give input for changes that they would like to see in the budget. We also had, we'll also have a final discussion on what the utility rates are for the next fiscal year. And I mentioned this before, that all these are kind of pass-through costs based upon, cost of the operation and maintenance. And so this year, and everybody should have received a notification in the mail about what our new rates are. But our new water rates will be going up 1.5% compared to 9.6% for Silicon Valley water. Last year we did 0%, but this year we need to increase a little bit. Wastewater will be 4% and solid waste will be 4% also. But a typical single-family utility bill will be going up about $4.76 per month on a per family basis. So not that much, but it's kind of dealing with the ongoing increasing costs. We'll also do a budget modification for Fair Oaks Park renovations, and this is for the Magical Bridge all-inclusive playground, and also to fund the unhoused program for those unhoused that were at Fair Oaks Park that are now the city is providing services and having them stay at the Travel Inn. And we'll go through the post-construction report to retain the kind of the bike lane configuration, so that along Maud Avenue between Borregas and Fair Oaks. And so that was instituted about 2 years ago, and it's kind of getting feedback from studies on what the parking impacts were on the surrounding neighborhoods. And then on June 15th, Council will be adopting our 2021-2022 budget. So we get final public testimony, give any final direction to Council Tuesday night, and then do a final approval in that 2021-2022 budget on the 15th. And then June 15th is also the day that California opens up. And so there's still a few questions about what will be required, with the mask mandate being lifted. Cal OSHA had some questions about people being masked inside earlier this week, and they're still having hearings on that. So what are all the requirements of indoor office space? But definitely some of our high-tech companies have already said that they're bringing their employees back to work, maybe not 5 days a week anymore, but 2 or 3 days, kind of as a transitionary thing. And I think there will be a certain amount of remote work that will be maintained after COVID is done. So I think that will be a positive result of everything. And then on June 17th, Council will be interviewing our applicants for our redistricting committee. And so June 1st was the deadline for the redistricting committee applications. And luckily we had 22 applicants. So we have someone from every district, and it's good to see that there's a lot of support and a lot of interest as far as how we redraw our district boundaries for our voting on our council members. So that's in place, and we'll be interviewing all those 22 people. It'll probably be, I think it starts at 4 p.m. and it's going to be a long evening as far as interviewing all those applicants. So let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. First up, Molly asked, is there any update on the new pool at Washington Park? The pool is the pool construction is going along great. It's the pool has been poured. The buildings are mainly complete. They're completing the outdoors, but we're only about a month away from the opening of Washington Park, and that's fantastic. I've seen the art that's going to be at that location. It's really great. The kids are going to love it. The parents are going to love it. I met with the artist. That was my first coffee meeting about 3 weeks ago, so it was good to meet him in person after I'd seen his artwork, and and it's really good from that standpoint. I'd met him at an art commission meeting, I think just before shelter in place started, so it's good from that standpoint. But yes, the new, it'll have a splash pad. It's going to have a zero entry pool, so you can just kind of walk into the pool, which is better for ADA access. So yeah, the pool will be open at the beginning of July. Next up, Jeff asked, what's happening with the Macy's demolition? So just this week, the bridge started to be torn down between the parking structure and the actual Macy's building. They've been doing internal demolition, deconstruction, kind of pulling out any metal that can be recycled before they just tear down the building. But earlier this week, they started tearing down the outdoor bridge, and sometime next week, or probably end of next week, they'll actually be tearing down the Macy's building itself. So if you get a chance, drop by, take a look. I know the kids have been really enjoying seeing all the different cranes and other equipment, big equipment, doing their job on the Macy's site there. Sue asked, are they saving the child handprints in the cement on the east side of Macy's? And I checked with City Line. They weren't able to save that piece of the sidewalk. It was just logistically not well, and the thickness wasn't good, so it would have ended up breaking anyway. But they did commission, actually, so City Line did commission a professional photographer to take images of that sidewalk, and ultimately they'll be making those available. So for all those people that were kids back in the 70s when Macy's went in and put their initials and handprints into that sidewalk, there will be kind of a permanent record that'll be made available, at least as far as the photos are concerned. And then Sharon asked, is there a website where we can see the details of the new development downtown? I'm not sure which is open space and which is being developed. And I actually brought this up with the city manager earlier this week. So the city is going to be working with City Line to kind of talk about what the new vision is for all the different blocks, and that's not just the City Line blocks downtown. So the old post office is becoming an office building with kind of a big open entryway. There's Redwood Square. There's going to be housing around that. Macy's is going to have retail on the bottom and office space above. There's going to be retail, at McKinley and Matilda, as well as office space above there. So there's a lot going on, and I don't think that there's any kind of concise thing defining what's been approved. And so I think that there'll be a new website, or at least some good diagrams to just kind of lay out what each of the areas is going to be in the new vision of downtown. So we'll see when that comes up, but definitely I think I want to thank Sharon for bringing that question up, because I've lived and breathed this for almost 20 years now, as far as what's being approved in downtown and how that vision keeps changing. But it's all in my head and I can explain it, but it's better to have a visual representation that everybody can take a look at. So hopefully we'll get that to you soon. Angela asked, what can we do to keep Murphy Avenue closed to car traffic indefinitely? Will there be future votes or other ways to get involved and voice our opinion? Who gets to weigh in on that decision? So definitely, keep telling your businesses that you like it. It's actually more complex than originally thought. There are big issues like fire access, and when you start looking at officially closing the street, how that plays to the downtown plan. But I think we'll get through those indefinitely. It's a pilot program to keep Murphy Avenue closed, and then we'll look at what additional things need to get done over the next few months in order to make that official. But at a certain point, writing to council, writing to the city manager about how much you love your downtown, and having Murphy Avenue being a pedestrian zone, that's always a positive thing. That positive reinforcement does make a difference. But to a certain degree, the downtown association is on board, and a lot of the businesses are. So just definitely keep giving everyone that positive feedback about how much you love it. Kimberly asked, I'm curious why the Sierra Park splash pad is working, but Seven Seas and others are not operating. What is the thinking and rationale around this? And of course, this was before we reached the yellow tier. With the yellow tier, I talked to the city manager, all the splash pads, all the fountains are all now reopened around the city. And especially it's important as things start to get hotter, it just becomes easier for people to get that drink of water, or for kids to play in the splash pads on a hot day. So, and then finally, Jason asked, are you going to restart your in-person office hours? Over the last few weeks, I've started meeting people face to face. What I'm going to start doing, and depending upon how the virtual office hours work, I might be moving my virtual office hours a little bit earlier. So this was kind of a first week to try that out at 8 a.m. and then starting, in upcoming weeks to have office hours in person downtown for an hour or two after. Because, before the pandemic, I was normally meeting people from about 7:30 a.m. to 10, 11, noon some days, of meeting people for 15 minutes or 30 minutes at Bean Scene. And so this will be at least an hour virtual, and then conceivably meeting a few people for an hour or two after, depending upon how that works out logistically. So hopefully I'll be seeing more and more people in person in the coming few months. And actually, one more, Wendy asked, when is there going to be music on Murphy Avenue this summer? So a few weeks ago, we started music on Wednesday and Thursday nights, and that's either a live musician or a DJ playing. But the real I'll say, and that's right now, it's just background music. The real Wednesday night rock and Saturday night jazz will start at the beginning of August. So hopefully things are looking good as far as COVID is concerned by the beginning of August, and that's when things will really open up downtown, and we'll start seeing a lot more activity. Let's go ahead and wrap up. I just want to thank everyone for joining me again this week for our early session. I'm proud of Sunnyvale's response to the pandemic. Life continues to be difficult and challenging for many, but your actions do make a difference. Wear your mask, get your vaccination, continue to help others, build community where you can. It's great to see people still, helping out, sharing what they have. I'm proud to see Sunnyvale residents really, helping those in need. So if you're out on a walk, wave, say hello. People miss that social interaction. We are social animals at the end of the day, and this last 14 months has been pretty difficult, but Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. To everyone, stay safe, get vaccinated, and of course, have a great weekend. Take care. Goodbye.